further ado, being sensitive to everyone's time, Linda, if you can go ahead and move us forward, we're going to get started. My name's Angela Kraft Williams, and on behalf of our team, I'm going to start with our mission statement as a group. The Political Awareness Forum is designed to educate and motivate our respective communities concerning the political process. Politics impacts all facets of daily life, and this forum will be used to provide historical facts and discuss relevant political topics with our goal to empower, equip, and disseminate significant information to allow informed decisions when we vote. To cover the agenda, Linda, if you can go back one. Thank you. This evening, we're going to cover the following topics. We're going to start with Brad Price, who's going to walk us through down ballot. From there, Mr. Kenny Williamson is going to talk about the United States Postal Service in the 2020 election. And then we'll close it out with Christopher Williams talking about mail-in voting. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Brad.
All right. Thank you. I'm starting my timer. Thanks, Michelle. I'm sorry. That wasn't Michelle. Thank you, Angela. All right, tonight I'm tasked with talking about down ballot voting, what it is, why it's important, and then I'll give you some examples of its impact. Also, I'm going to touch briefly on the importance and impact of local politics. Next slide. So down ballot voting, what is it? Down ballot voting is voting in every political race on the ballot. So you have your headliner, you have your president as the headliner. Down ballot voting is just participating in those contests that happen below the headliner. All right, so simply voting in a political contest that appear below the presidential candidates on the ballot. On any given election, some examples are on the screen now of those down ballot elections. So under the president, on any given election, you'll have a U.S. Senate race, a U.S. House Representative race, your governor's race, state governor's race, state secretary of state, your state attorney general, state controllers, state treasurer, state senate, and state house representatives, so your state Congress. You can also have on any given election, your county clerk's race, your county state's attorney, your county sheriff, county treasurer, circuit court judges, and your regional superintendent could be a part of that as well. We just want to talk a little bit about the impact, or not the impact, but why is down ballot voting important? All right. So a president's ability to accomplish his agenda and fulfill his campaign promises are dependent upon his political party's ability to control the legislature, lawmakers, Congress. So right below the president, on that down ballot, you have the Congress, basically, the House of Representatives and the Senate election. His ability to do what he wants to do as a president is dependent on his ability to have control, or his political party to have control over the Senate or over the Congress. So the majority party determines who leads important committees. Whoever controls the House or the Senate controls the agenda. Also, the political parties' dominance at the local and state level are important as well. Political party dominance at those levels can lead or can lend support to or stymie the president's agenda. So those down ballot elections are very important to those parties as they align under the presidential candidate of your choice. Some of the impact, real quick, share a piece of impact of the down ballot voting. In 2018, the 2018 midterm elections of the Republican Party, they lost 33 congressional seats, surrendering control of the House to the Democratic Party. So that's huge. To lose 33 seats and lose control of the House of Representatives, had a major impact on what that Republican president was going to be able to accomplish in terms of his agenda. So, I mean, as you can see, having a political party control of Congress can help you achieve your agenda, or it can stymie you and stall you from achieving some of those things that you had planned on accomplishing. Let's go to the next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Make sure to go all the way down the ballot. All right, so make sure you vote all the way down the ballot. Down ballot, getting that entire ballot done. Turn it over. Maybe some stuff on the back too. What your political party's dominance will help you, that president or whoever that leader is, achieve his goals. You're going to hear a lot about that in the next couple of slides, not slides, but presentations. That U.S. postal presentation. Democratic states attorneys and Democratic governors were upset about some of the operational changes that happened at the post office, and they made noise. They threatened lawsuits. They made noise. They let their U.S. Congress people know about that, and as a result, the Postmaster General was held accountable and taken to task. So let's talk a little bit about local politics. All politics are local politics. Right? The issues that are important to you can usually be addressed at the local level. What are you concerned about? Your mayor? I mean, what are you concerned about? Your mayor, city council, city manager, county executives, school boards, park district boards, library boards. I mean, they're all elected officials who are accountable to the communities that they serve. You should know your towns or cities' form of government. Know who are the policymakers. Know who sets the city ordinances and who are the lawmakers. I mean, that's important in terms of knowing who to vote for or who to back. If their views line up with your views, then of course those are some of the people that you want to align with. So you need to know who's in power, who has the power to hire, fire, and appoint leadership. All right. Just a real quick example of how city politics or how local politics impact national politics. The city council in the city of Louisville outlawed no-knock warrants and chokeholds by the police department in the aftermath of the murder of Breonna Taylor. Huge, huge. The city council in the city of Minneapolis voted to abolish the police department following the murder of George Floyd. Right? So these are some examples of local politics responding to local events that have national implications. So your city council, they matter. Right? I mean, a lot of times we look past those local elections and those local officials who are in positions to make decisions, and something like this can happen in your community. You want to have the people in place who represent your values. Your vote is an opportunity to get things changed. If something's not, you're not pleased with something, it's your time to get things changed. We talk about local issues. We talk about local issues or what you need locally affecting things federally. Your concerns go to your representative, your state representative. Your state representative takes those things to the U.S. reps. So absolutely, what you do on the local level can make a difference and can impact national policy. With that, I will move on to our
Brad, I appreciate that. So now we're going to talk about the United States Postal Service and the 2020 election. So with that, Mr. Kenny Williams, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Angela. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kenny Williamson, and I have been an employee at the U.S. Postal Service as a letter carrier for the past 32 years. And in that 32 years, I've seen several changes throughout my Postal Service career. And a lot of those changes were basically to provide better service to the customer. And I take that word service serious because that's what we do. We provide a service. We're not a business. We're the Postal Service. And there's a few things I want to talk to you about tonight. One is that the Postal Service has a 91% approval rating, which is the highest approval rating of any federal agency. Now, I want to talk about the proof, the evidence that supports that approval rating is the support that I get from my customers. There have been customers, especially when the pandemic first started, there have been customers that would express their concern. There are customers who gave me masks, disinfectant wipes, hand sanitizer, all this when it was so hard to find, because as one of my customers said, I want to make sure my guy is taken care of. And so, but not only that, I remember just last Wednesday, I did a part of another route with customers that don't even know me. They have no idea who I am. And I saw them sitting out. They were doing some social distancing in a driveway. There was maybe like 10 couples. And I had an extra break, so I decided to stop just to say hello. And when I got out of my truck, they started applauding. But they weren't applauding me. They were applauding my craft. They were applauding the Postal Service. And so that applause is evidence that supports that high approval rating. And during the COVID-19, when that started, that showed that they even appreciated us even more. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about is the effect that COVID-19 has had on the post office. As you probably can tell in your own mail volume has dropped. Even though sales they usually come out, you see they're a lot thinner. There's no catalogs that advertise for certain things. And when the mail volume drops, so does our revenue. That's why there has been Congress is trying to help out the Postal Service by $25 billion stimulus package. And so COVID-19 has affected us all. But not only does the Postal Service has a 91% approval rating, the next thing I want to talk about is that the Postal Service has a new man in charge. You'll see that on the next slide here. A man by the name of Louis DeJoy. One of the things that I want to share, there's three things actually I want to share about him: his cash donations, his conflict of interest, and his congressional testimony. Now, when it comes to his cash donations, he has donated since 2016 $1.2 million to the Trump Victory Committee, a similar amount to the Republican National Committee, $175,000 to the Republican National Senatorial Committee, and about $70,000 to the Congressional Senate Committee. And I imagine these cash donations led to this press release, which was released on April 3rd, 2017, when the RNC announced additions to the RNC Finance Leadership Team. Michael Cohen, Elliot Brody, which both have pleaded guilty to felonies, by the way, and Louis DeJoy. All three of these men will serve as National Deputy Finance Chairman. And I believe that's probably because of his cash donations. But not only the cash donations, but there are conflicts of interest. Louis DeJoy and his wife, who, by the way, was appointed U.S. ambassador to Canada, have between $30 and $75 million in companies that compete with the Postal Service. Amazon, UPS, J.B. Hunt. These are all either competitors or contractors with the Postal Service. And so that's a conflict of interest. But what I really want to spend time on is his congressional testimony that just happened. It was one Friday, and then there was another one just yesterday. And during his congressional testimony, he had a lot to answer for. The delay in mail, which I've seen myself. If you've been watching the news, you've seen and heard about the removal of postal equipment and collection boxes. When it comes to the postal equipment that has been removed, in an article obtained by NBC, an internal document, 671 machines were either destroyed or decommissioned. Out of those 671 machines, 502 of those machines, which are barcode sorters, which have the capacity to process 36,000 pieces of mail per hour. These machines were either removed or just been turned off. Now, the problem that I have with that, as far as them destroying them, these machines can have future use. But if they're destroyed, maybe the Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy, or as some refer to him as Louis DeLay, maybe he has a plan to outsource this work to one of his XBO Logistics, which is a company, which is one of our contractors, but he also has financial ties to. And so there's a lot of questionable things going on with this postmaster. And the reason why I question his congressional testimony is because, as I mentioned to someone before, when you lie to Congress, that comes with the penalty of perjury. Unless, of course, you have the power of the pardon on your side, which one congressman, I believe his last name was Lynch, Congressman Lynch asked him directly, are you counting on a pardon from the president like Roger Stone got? And so again, anything he says, I question it because of that particular out that he might have, that sort of get out of jail free card. So not only does the Postal Service have a 91% approval rating, we have a new man in charge, but the Postal Service also has a way for you to participate. Oh, we got a little bit ahead of myself here. Just want to share this with you. The Postal Service has, this is it. The Postal Service has a way for you to participate, and that is your mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots and absentee ballots are the same thing. Just like people believe that the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare, some people believe those are two different things. They're the same thing. So is mail-in ballots and absentee ballots. Now, the removal of question boxes and postal equipment are contributing to your vote being suppressed. These machines that are turned off, actually, I talked to a clerk at the Fox Valley facility which processed the mail. He was telling me that these machines were turned off. They hadn't been removed yet, but they were turned off. And these machines actually are the machines that are the ones that process the mail-in ballots. Okay, and so the bottom line is, if you're going to vote by mail, do not hesitate to send in your ballot. Send it in as soon as possible. And then finally, I just want to share these things with you as we close. As we look at the last slide, the USPS 2020 election, some things you need to know. Election mail. Any item mailed to or from authorized election officials that enable citizens to participate in the voting process, including ballots, voter registration cards, and absentee applications, and polling place notifications. Ballot postage. Unless your state or local election officials provide you with a prepaid return envelope, you must make sure the appropriate postage is affixed to your return ballot. To help voters, the Postal Service requires election officials to inform voters of the amount of first-class postage required to return their ballots. And USPS collection boxes, you can drop your ballot in a USPS collection box. Just be sure to check collection times posted on collection boxes at the post office, locations, and retail facilities. Also be mindful that when mail is delivered and picked up at your residential mailbox, ballots deposited after the collection time won't be picked up or postmarked until the following business day. Thank you for your time. I'll turn it back over to Brad.
Thank you, Kenny. With that, we are going to move over and speak to absentee ballots with Mr. Christopher Williams.
Okay. Hi, everybody. What I'm going to cover is absentee ballots. If we can get to the next slide there, please. Absentee ballots for the 2020 elections. The first thing that you need to know, as Kenny said, absentee ballots and vote by mail ballots are the exact same thing. The actual terminology that the state of Illinois now uses is vote by mail, and it's simply because it is a more accurate description of what's taking place. In the past, laws required you to have a reason to request a mail-in ballot. You're overseas, you're going to be at your cousin's house in Florida, you're a member of the military. But that has now changed, and anybody who wants a mail-in ballot can now request one from the state of Illinois. So as you see the slides continue to move here, you'll see absentee ballots. The more accurate term should be mail-in ballots. Applications for vote by mail ballots are currently being accepted. They actually started accepting them on June 16th. All applications for vote by mail ballots should be received by your election authority by 10/29/2020. And your election authority is your county board of elections. I live in Will County, so I would contact the Will County Board of Elections. If you're in DuPage County, you would do the same thing for DuPage County and all the other counties in Illinois. There's a link there that is you can follow, and it'll take you to the state site where you can actually print off an application for your mail-in ballot, or you can actually do it online. You can go ahead and move on to that next slide now. Absentee ballots, while the last day your vote by mail application can be received is 10/29. Remember, the election is on 10/3/20, which, I'm sorry, 11/3/20, which means that you get your ballot, your application into the election authority on 10/29. That is a Thursday. They can turn around and get that in the mail to you on Friday, hopefully. And hopefully you would have it by Tuesday, the date of the election. But if you don't have that by that time, you're going to be in a slight little predicament, meaning that you can still vote, but you'll have to go to in-person voting. And once you get there, the state of Illinois has a way of tracking everyone's vote. That you have a mail-in ballot, they'll allow you to vote, but it will be considered a provisional ballot, okay? And so all the ballots have to be postmarked by 11/3/2020. Anything not postmarked on 11/3 will not be counted, period. So this is a recommendation that I have. This is not official. You won't find this on any Will County site or anything. I would say the last day to request a mail-in ballot, if you haven't already done so, will be 10/20/2020, just to make sure that the election authority has enough time to get your application and get it in the mail to you, and you can receive it and then return it. All right, next slide. Absentee ballots and the 2020 election continued. Again, the state does track all mail-in ballots and applications. They know if you've requested one. And again, once you go to vote, if you decide to go in person, it's going to show that you received a mail-in ballot, and they're going to make you do a provisional ballot. If on election day or on any early voting day, you decide that you do not want to mail in your ballot, you would rather go and vote in person, and you have applied for a mail-in ballot and you have received it, you must take that ballot with you and surrender it to an election judge. If you do not surrender it, your vote will be considered provisional, and it may be counted 2 weeks after the And the reason it may be counted is there are a lot of other things that you'll have to do. The election officials would do just to make sure your vote is going to be a valid vote. Absentee ballots, as we continue, you need to sign your ballot. That's going to be very important. That's probably the one thing that people miss the most and is a cause for their vote not being counted. Sign your ballot with the signature that you would use to sign your driver's license, your state ID, or your FOID card. The state matches all signatures on ballots. And what's going to pull up is your driver's license signature or your state ID signature or your FOID card signature. And personally, I have a FOID card and they use the exact same signature for my driver's license. They just took everything from the Department of Motor Vehicles and attached it to my FOID card, and it's the exact same thing. Do not use your Macy's signature. Do not use your Jewel Osco signature. Do not use, I just got pulled over by a policeman's signature and I'm mad because I got a ticket, because there will be election officials there. The election judges are going to look at those signatures. And if they don't match, it's just not going to count. There's going to be a Democrat and a Republican sitting right there verifying everything, every application, every ballot. And if they don't match, it will not count. The election, just as with previous elections, strict protocols will be enforced. Next slide. The state of Illinois this year mailed all registered voters, all currently registered voters in Illinois, an application. You should have received that already. You should have received that sometime mid-July, end of July. If you have not received it or you don't recall seeing it, just go and check your registration, because what happens is the post office cannot forward, if you've moved or anything, the post office cannot forward election materials. It's sent back to the election authority, at which time they'll move your registration from active to inactive. And so if you go to vote later, you're going to have to provide ID. That's when they'll have the right to ask you for a picture ID. And so you would have to have that. And so just to prevent any of that information, any of those little hiccups, just make sure that if you haven't received your application, that you go and check one of the websites. You can go to, I believe, vote.org, Illinois, to check on your registration. You can also, if you're not registered, go and register at that time. Don't wait to the last minute to do any of this. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, and that was it for me.
All right, thank you, Christopher. So where are we now? So as you can see here, hopefully you've had an opportunity to get some really good information. As many, Christopher as well as Brad have alluded to, there are a few places here where you can see where you can vote, as well as check your registration. Here are some key deadlines to remember. Register online is Sunday, October 18th. That's the deadline. The deadline to register by mail to vote, it has to be postmarked by Tuesday, October 6th. We talked about the deadline to register in person to vote, with the vote being Tuesday, November 3rd. As Christopher talked about, mail-in ballots can be registered now by going through the county clerk's website. Here are a few, and that has to be done by Thursday, October 29th. And then the early voting period runs from Thursday, September 24th to Monday, November 2nd here in Illinois. Those dates may change depending on what state you live in. Next slide, Linda. So now we're going to turn it over to any questions. So if you have any questions, please unmute your line. I'm going to check in the chat and we'll go from there. But are there any questions at this time? Linda, can you move to that next resource slide while I await any questions? That last slide, please. Thank you. So I'm going to leave this up while we go through any Q&A. Again, you can see some key websites. I Will Vote, Rock the Vote, vote.org, ballotready.org, as well as 2 sites for Illinois. And again, as several have alluded to, you can check with your county state for specific links as it relates to your timeframes and deadlines. There are no questions in the chat. Does anyone have any question that's in the audience, please?
Quick question, Angela.
Yes.
Just on, and I don't know if you guys talked about this earlier. I was probably about 5 minutes late on the call. But as far as the down ballot votes or down ballot candidates, is there a best place to look for information on their track record, on their background and all that good stuff, as far as understanding? Because sometimes when I go to the ballot box, I see some down ballot votes that maybe a Democrat is running unopposed. So I just select them because if I'm voting Democratic, then I just select them. But I really don't know anything about that person, so I'm just trying to figure out, is there any way we can gather more information about all of the down ballots and who's running, and where to get solid information on their background?
I'll give it a try, but I'll also let Brad interject. If you see this link that I'm highlighting, cookcountyclerk.com 2020 info candidates, that has information on all candidates that are running. So to your point, Darren, you can see all the way down as it relates to Cook County. There's one for Will County, but a link like this will show you and provide information on all of the candidates. Brad, anything additional you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, ballotready.org has all of that information.
Okay.
You pop in your address, it'll show you basically your ballot, tell you everything, it'll give you all your elected officials, all the elections that you're capable of voting in for this particular election, all of the candidates who are up for your Senate candidates and your House of Representative candidates in your congressional areas. Will pop up, and they'll let you know when they're due for election. It also gives a background in each candidate's website as well. So,
okay, thank you, Brett. Great question, Darren. Does anyone else have any questions that they would like us to tackle?
Miss Angie, Pastor Sam, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Great information, guys. I really enjoyed it. My question, though, is in reference to, with all the different venues and opportunities that we can vote, what is in person the best opportunity to ensure accurate and timely voting? If you have to pick one above any of all the others, is in person my best option?
Giving my opinion, and then I'll turn it over to the other folks on the team to provide their perspective. I would say in-person voting, either via early voting or on election day. Just understanding, if you wait to election day, the lines might be long. I'm sure we've all seen in some of the primaries 3, 4, up to 6 hours of people waiting. But to your point, Pastor Sam, at least then you're in person, you are physically dropping your vote into the box to be recorded. But I'll ask Brad, as well as Christopher, Kenny, and anyone else who might have a perspective. Christopher?
Well, the vote by mail, you'll be able to track your ballot. So if you want to do it, if you do it early enough, you can track your ballot, you can see where it's at in the process, and that once the Board of Election receives it. So that's the one good thing about it. The one thing that I would be slightly worried about is mail delays, but if you do it early enough, that shouldn't have any impact on it at all. As far as an accurate count, I can speak for Will County. They're going to start counting ballots in October, the mail-in ballots. They're going to start counting mail-in ballots in October, and the counts will take place in what they call central count, which takes place on a Sunday. They'll have election judges there. to verify the process. And so the count should be accurate and up to date on election day. The only thing that won't be counted are the provisional ballots. And that could be a big problem this year if people don't return surrender their ballots. If they requested mail-in ballots, if they don't surrender them to the election judge, if you go and your registration is inactive, and you have to register and you don't have all the requirements, that becomes a provisional ballot, which may or may not be counted 2 weeks later. Because what happens at that 2-week period, the state's attorney, election judges, the sheriff department, representatives from all the campaigns are there watching these election officials count these ballots and making sure everything is up to par. And so you don't want to have a provisional ballot. So just make sure your registration is on point and you just vote early.
Okay, Brad or Kenny, anyone else want to add any context?
I would say for me, the final destination for my ballot is the county clerk's office. So if I didn't feel comfortable going to the polling places, then the county clerk's office would be a good place to take it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Pastor Sam. Great question. Any additional questions?
Angela, this is Sabrina Johnson.
Hi.
Hi. Is there any way we can walk in our mail-in ballots and drop them off without mailing them, completing them at home and then walking them into the facilities?
I do believe you can surrender them to an election judge, but I also believe closer to the election or approximately 30 days out, there are going to be mailboxes similar to our USPS box for drop-off centers for people to put their ballots in. But I do believe you can surrender.
Well, if you go to the person, you got to surrender.
Pardon?
If you have your mail-in ballot, you have to surrender it to an election judge.
So she can hand it out.
So you just hand it over. You take it with you when you go to vote. They'll put in your information. It'll come up on their screen. Oh, you requested a mail-in ballot. Do you have your mail-in ballot? You say yes. You hand it to them. You're able to vote with no problem whatsoever. As far as the, I think I heard the question about the boxes that are going to be around. The Chicago Tribune had an article with the locations of some of the Cook County and I believe Kendall County locations. I know Will County is going to have about 6 different locations, with the biggest one being down at the Will County Board of Elections. The other places are going to be, I believe they are looking at Lockport, somewhere on the border of Bolingbrook and Naperville, and someplace in Plainfield. So there are going to be locations. Go to your Board of Elections website to find out where they're at.
And even if out of state, Sabrina.
Okay, and the reason why I asked, I just didn't want for some unforeseen incident happens where you go to vote and the place is closed because of a COVID outbreak. So,
which again is why Christopher mentioned if you're going to vote early, because we don't know what's going to happen leading up to those few days, and we would hate for people's votes not to be counted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Angela, can I add something to that, please?
Please.
Yeah, one of the things that you've been hearing in the news is that putting your ballot in the mailbox is not secure. Those boxes are secure. People talk about they maybe have COVID on it. People may have access to them to break into them. Those ballot boxes are secure. Even I believe the election boxes also have cameras where you can tell if anybody's tampering with them or not.
Okay.
Great. Any additional questions? I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. All right, going once, going twice. All right. Well, again, thank you all for taking the time to pop in this evening to listen to the first of several as we lead up to that important election day forums that we are going to host. As we talked about a little bit about some housekeeping rules, our goal is to have this recording available as well as this presentation deck, given there are some good resource materials in here. So we will work on communicating that out, and we look forward to everyone joining us for our second Political Awareness Forum in the next few weeks. Thanks, everyone, and have a blessed evening.